This is a water chestnut. It gives that wonderful crunch and mild nutty flavour to your favourite Asian dish. But for all we know, they could be grown in some concrete drain fed on sewerage in southern China somewhere. So I decided to grow my own right here. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to grow water chestnuts at home, and we're going to harvest this lot here and see just how well I've done. Let's get into it. It's true, one of the main reasons I grow my own food is because I do like to know where it comes from. I mean, growing in a drain is a bit extreme, okay? I take that back a little bit, but overall, if you grow it at home, you know exactly what's gone into it. No pesticides, no sewage, just good, wonderful garden ingredients that you can trust. I mean, who can't trust themselves? So before we go into harvesting all this, let me first explain how I grew these water chestnuts to begin with. First of all, they are a water plant. It's in the name. They're actually a reed or a type of grass that grows predominantly in water or in boggy type ground. So I had to replicate that, and that's why I decided to grow them in a container, sort of plastic pond type container. It's only a small one, less than 1 meter across. And keeping with my whole theme of raised bed gardening, of course, I propped it up so it was a decent height so I could work at. So I made it as level as I could with some Besser bricks and some wood and other bricks. And then what I did was I tried to replicate a type of growing medium that I thought that these reeds would like to grow in. Some light volcanic rock is what I used, and just some normal good quality garden soil. Of course, I had to purchase some of these water chestnuts before I started, and I did. I purchased some online. I grew them for a number of months to see if I could multiply them out and get more, and then start my experiment. I collected all the small chestnuts. My theory was why a lot of them were small in my first test was because they were too crowded. So I was hoping that if I grew them in a bigger area and didn't crowd them together too much, I would get a larger chestnut. Before I filled it with water, of course, I positioned the water chestnuts strategically in there, and I covered them over, hoping that they wouldn't move around too much when the water was added. Once it was filled with water, it was just a waiting game really, watching it grow and hoping that it would grow nice and thick and healthy. There were 3 things that I needed to do. The first thing, well, besides monitoring it, was continually topping it up with water, because as the reeds grow, they use water, and water evaporates, of course. I found myself at least once a week topping this thing up until it overflowed to keep it going. The other thing that I noticed that I didn't really expect, but I should have known, mosquitoes. I saw quite a lot of larvae in there, so I was wondering, how do I control that? I mean, I can't put fish in there, it just wouldn't work. But I found this, and it worked surprisingly well, thankfully. These mosquito dunks. It's an organic way, it's an organic bacterial, I believe, way of controlling, anyway, I won't take one out, of controlling mosquitoes. You just put 1 or 2 of these things in the container, and they dissolve and they let out a bacteria that I believe attacks the larvae of the mosquito in there, and it actually worked really well. So I do recommend these. They're supposed to be safe in fish habitats and roof gutters, rain barrels, old tires. Not sponsored or anything, I just found that it was an easy solution, and it worked for months. The other thing that I did throughout the growing season, about every 6 weeks or so, I would give it a little feed of a soluble fertilizer on a fairly light mix, similar to what you would give to normal potted plants. I found that the plants grew really well, in fact above my expectations, especially how thick these reeds got. But then of course, once it started cooling down in autumn, and especially once winter hit, it started dying back severely, and this is where we're at now. So I guess it's time to harvest this and see what we've got. I think this reed stuff, I mean, you could almost use it as a thatch for a house, couldn't you? Or a hut, barley hut. But I don't think I've got enough, unless you want a really tiny barley hut. Maybe a straw hat. Anyway, I'm going to use it back in the garden, just like that, as a mulch. It's coming out pretty easy. There's a little bit of pumpkin vine wrapped up in there. I didn't want it to be too wet and sloshy, so I haven't been watering it for at least a month. I think what I'll do is I'll collect any of these young shoots that I pull up and I'll whack them in here. They could be used as small seedlings for another batch this coming season. I haven't really thought of a way to harvest these properly, except for digging through. That's a decent sized one there. Be careful. They haven't gone down real deep. That's what I've noticed. They haven't, like, the base is right down here and there's nothing in the base. So they're probably in the top 3 inches or 4 inches of the soil volcanic stone mix. There we go. I think that's the biggest one so far, is this fella here. Nice size. Lovely. Okay, well that's a decent haul. I'm pretty happy with that, although there's not a lot of huge ones and there's plenty of little ones that I've left in there. I just know that they're going to be a real bugger to peel. I'm going to wash these out now, and then let's have a go at peeling some on camera and just see how they go. Rightio, that's nice and clean. Yeah, there's some decent sized ones in here. So let's get a little knife and see how we go. What? That's a little knife in Australia. Okay, let's see how we go. I think I'll just cut the top off first. There we go. It's finicky. Rightio, I wanted to bring back these ones in the can because this is how most people, even the restaurants, typically get them and use them. They don't grow their own, but I wanted to show you that mine, well, it's one of the bigger ones, yeah, but this is one of the bigger ones in the can as well. Let me just put that down. You can see the difference is really comparable. This one here hasn't been boiled or canned or cooked. This one has been. You can eat them raw, you know, you can eat them like this. They're quite woody. A little bit coconut. I'm getting coconut. Yeah, very much coconut. Whereas this one is more of a regular slight nutty flavour, easier to chew, not as woody. Probably because they've been processed. Both good. I mean, so you can eat them raw, you can eat them cooked, you can eat them fried, you can grill them, you can do whatever you want. I'd probably prefer them boiled up and then cooked in a stir fry. The beauty of them is, and this is why they're really great for stir fries, is you can boil these up, preserve them, you can freeze them as well, and they'll last for quite a time in the freezer. And then they will retain the crunchiness no matter how you cook them. So other veggies in that in a stir fry will go soggy and won't be as appealing if you don't cook them quite right. Whereas this will add that crunch to your stir fry or your stew or whatever you want to cook. And not only add the crunch, it adds the antioxidants, great vitamins and minerals, and especially organically grown, you're getting all those beautiful nutrients into your body by eating them homegrown. And if you look at some of the smaller ones in here, it's comparable to the small ones that I'm growing. You get a paring knife, you don't need a big Australian knife to do this. You can get a peeler. They might be easier to boil these up first, process them and then peel them. Maybe the skin will come off easier. Either way, you can see that they're a bugger to peel. They must be peeled by hand, because even these ones in the can, you can see where they've had the cuts from a paring knife. So it's not machine cut or anything. A fair bit of time goes into it. But what I want to say, sometimes when you're growing things at home, or not even growing things at home, some food, you have to go through the hard yards to get the goods. I mean, think of an olive, for example. You grow the olive, takes a long time. You pick the olive. You can't eat an olive straight off the, well, you could, but it'll pucker you right up and it tastes awful. You have to cure the olive, you know, so you have to pick them, you have to cure them. If you're making olive oil, then you have to process them. My point is, sometimes to get an outstanding food or result, or grow something that you really want to grow and eat, so you know where it's come from, it does take effort. But that effort is worth it. And even if I'm going to grow this as a reed plant in a pond just for fun and then harvest it occasionally, it looks good in the garden. So perhaps you just want to grow it as an ornamental that can be turned into something you can eat every now and again. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you get that chestnut right out, and I don't know where I'm going with that, and give it a big chestnut, water chestnut thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and yeah, share the video around, because something like this is probably not that well known, and it could motivate someone to grow them or learn something that they haven't before. And yeah, so visit my website, selfsufficientme.com, visit my forum, selfsufficientculture.com, the culture of self-sufficient living, and see the people over there. It's growing all the time. We've got Mandy there who works the forum, and she's doing a great job at welcoming people in, and I like to pop over there occasionally as well. So thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now. Cheers. I've got a heck of a lot of peeling to do.